permission to speak. Shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you! Never lose hope.
Here, Fred shouts.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, Fred!
Welcome to episode 442 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, April 11th, 2024 in the evening. Coming to you from Nomergon, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. From Northern Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
From Teldercell, California, we have Megasa.
Hello.
And from all around the world, we have you, dear listeners. As always, thank you for your reviews. If you would like to support the show but cannot do so monetarily, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast feed of choice. It always helps other people find the show. So, Life and Ladder. Wicked, do you want to start?
Do I? I don't know.
Get it out of the way.
It's been a week. I think, so I said last week that the kids had the school play, and I think all 5 of us have just been, really tired out from all of that, even though I had, the house to myself all day Sunday. I also spent most of the day in waiting room mode because Maureen and I were going to go out to dinner after they were done with the show on Sunday, except that we didn't realize how long it took for the combination of the show and the departing senior ceremony and breaking down the sets was going to take after all of that. So, Maureen didn't get home from dropping them off at the cast party till 7:30, and we were going to go out to dinner. And she texted me 3 o'clock. She's like, have your phone ready, because as soon as as soon as they're done, we're gonna leave. And oh, okay. So I was sitting in this room that I'm sitting in right now with my shoes on for 3 hours waiting, just with my shoes on, with my jacket on, ready to walk out the door. Just I guess I could start another game. I don't know what was gonna happen, but we did end up going to dinner at a hibachi restaurant, and the good thing was that it was late enough that there was no one else at our table, so we just got a private hibachi dinner where we were the only 2 at the table that the chef was cooking for, so that was nice. So, and we had a good meal after all that. But I think I've been definitely not playing my best this week. That's been very clear. I set out on my stream on Monday determined to learn Zarimi Priest, and it took me exactly 2 games to convince me that I was not going to learn it that night. Because I don't mind losing with a deck, but when I lose and I don't know what just hit me, that's when I know that I'm out of. I need to do more studying or something. So it wasn't just oh yeah, I did everything right and I lost. I lost and I have no idea what just happened for the last 10 minutes. So I gave up on that. I went back to Highlander Warrior, except that apparently everybody had given up on targeting Demon Hunter and gone to targeting the thing that was targeting the Demon Hunter. So I saw a lot of Plague Death Knights and a lot of Warlocks, which I had not been seeing before. And those are both miserable matchups. And also, Bran was very shy that night and decided that he just did not feel like coming out of the deck because I don't blame him given what we were playing against. I would also stay in bed if that was my choice, but it is what it is. So I tanked my rank a little bit, and I tanked my rank a little bit more trying some other stuff, and I tried playing some aggro Demon Hunter because I figured, okay, well, if I'm gonna lose playing the control deck that I'm comfortable with, I may as well try to play the best deck. And then I realized why I shouldn't be doing that, because there are glacial shards and other freezes and everything else everywhere, and that is not a whole lot of fun to play if that is not the kind of deck you're playing. So I've just basically been playing Battlegrounds because I realized that I have to finish up the rewards track, and that seems like a kinder to myself way to clear my dailies. And it's kind of timely with the end of the season. So I've been enjoying that. I'm doing okay. I'm at 5,000 MMR, which is, given that I don't play it as much as, a lot of other people who main Battlegrounds. I think it's a respectable MMR, and I don't feel like completely like clueless when I'm playing it, which is fine. That's about as good as I can hope for, given that I don't really pick it up more than like once a month when I remember that it's there. But I'm glad that it's there, and I do enjoy it when I get to play it. But yeah, it's been that, and and I never said that I finished Trails to Azure, so now I'm on to Trails of Cold Steel too. So I've been playing that on the train. I'm making my way through.
How many are left?
There's 3 more Cold Steel games. So there's 2, 3, and 4, and then Trails into Reverie that are out before Trails Through Daybreak comes out in the summer. I don't think I'm going to get there by the summer, but that's fine because I'm kind of watching the price of Trails Through Reverie because that's kind of the newest one. So that's been coming down a little bit. So I'm hoping that's going to kind of get down to like the $30 range by the time that Twin B and I are ready to play it, because it's down at like, I just saw it hit 40 for the first time. It's been at like 47. So that's how I know that I'm kind of getting into the sweet spot. But yeah, it's you know what? I'm glad that I've been sticking with it for this long. So, and I'm invested. The games can be very slow, and I had a very frustrating sequence where I was chasing a horse on a motorcycle. Don't ask.
What kind of horse is this that you're not catching it on a motorcycle?
It was a very fast horse in a very windy road. So, but yeah, I've been enjoying that when I haven't been playing Hearthstone or something else. So.
Gosh, the number of these games is like the Fate series for anime. It's just endless.
Yeah, it's like Attack on Titan or One Piece that's got like 1 million episodes and like you're starting it at the beginning, right? So.
Oh, I'm not saying like that. This is like the Fate series is, it's all the same world, but there's a bunch of different arcs and timelines and all sorts of different things going on.
Thinking about trying to get into this is like thinking about getting into Critical Role or something like that. Where I'm like, I would probably enjoy this, but there's so many of them and they're so long.
Yeah.
And I'm so far behind.
Yeah, it's like when I started to get into the Marvel movies and somebody told me I had to watch like everything leading up to the Avengers, and I got through I fell asleep during the first Thor movie and that was the end of it. I never went back to them. So yeah. But yeah. That's not for everybody, but I'm enjoying it. So, that's all that matters.
Your price watching is always also reminding me that I need to keep an eye on Lies of P and see when that's on sale.
Oh, isn't that just on Game Pass? Can't you just...
I mostly do stuff on the PlayStation now.
Oh, yeah.
So
okay, fair. Yeah.
Megasa, how about you? How's your life in ladder?
Well, first half of the week, there was not a lot of laddering. I was playing that game Book of Hours. I got so I didn't want to look stuff up, but also I needed to keep track of like what memories does rereading this give you, because it doesn't say, and what's the recipe for this so that I can remember what it is without looking at all of the recipes on the wiki. So I also wanted to check out Notion, the app, which it's a note-taking app, but also you can make like a spreadsheet like database on it, somewhat like Airtable. And so I was like, I want to check that out for wedding planning. But first, I'm going to learn how to do it by making a database of every book that I've read so far in this game about books.
As one does.
Quite a few. As one does. I did figure it was safe to look up the individual books in the wiki so that I could copy-paste their text, because part of piecing together the lore is to see the text, and I made a view of the table where you can read the text easily, and another one where you can easily see which memory do I want. It's very obsessional. It's definitely was an ADHD hyper-focus type of moment. And then I did find a wedding planning template and then completely change it and put all of my stuff into it and made a neat little budget, to which my boyfriend was like, so the point of this is just so that we can be sad at how much money we spent. Because we had done a rough budget, but we couldn't, you're supposed to do the budget first. But we didn't know how much anything costs until we started going into it, And things that are more variable, we'd been able to save money on, but something like a photographer just costs what it costs, And it's mostly just dependent on the size of the wedding. So, but But at least we know where we're at. And the guest list was much better than how we were doing it, and the vendors and their contact information, because we still need to hire a photographer mainly. And all of that. And taxes. I have 3 sources of income, so that was fun. Hearthstone. I've mostly only been doing well with Zaremi Priest, so I kind of had the opposite experience where I would lose terribly and then gain some ranks back with Zaremi Priest. Today, because I saw World 8 talking about it, I don't know if this was his card choice or if he'd seen it elsewhere, but he was talking about putting in gyre worms. So I was doing that instead of the glacial shards in that sort of flex spot, and was very impressed with them. They can kill the shoppers, which is better than freezing. They just straight out kill the shopper. They can give you that over-the-top damage that Leroy is in there for. I actually took out Leroy, took a caricature artist, which is something Donkey's been evangelizing. I'm not sure if that's the best choice, but it does draw you, we do need draw, and those are your most impactful cards. I could see it still being Leroy. A lot of people in the Masters Tour lineups put in Hearth. I was surprised, most of them had, I'm not as sure about that in a ladder situation, but the gyre worms are very good. They can help you control the board. They can get you that extra face damage. You can get an extra one and with Synchronize or Projectionist if you need to. The healing is nice. We don't really have a lot of healing despite being priest for our face anyway. So I do think that they're potentially a good addition. I haven't forged them once yet.
Really?
There was one time when I probably should have. I played it and then I'm I should have forged this and then played it twice the next turn. Instead I just ripped it. But mostly I draw it. I think it was because I hadn't happened to draw it early. And maybe I forged it once to play on a Zaremi turn. My tip of the day for Zaremi Priest is just play the Zaremi. You don't need lethal with the Zaremi most of the time. It's fine. It gets you an extra mana. It refreshes your mana crystals. It gives you a free 4/6 with charge. It lets all your other minions attack twice. It's a pretty good card. So, and we're winning by overwhelming the board usually, not through an OTK. So even if you're facing something like a warrior, you put them to 2, they have to gain armor and clear the board. Which if they have Reno in their hand, then yeah. But let's say they've already played Reno, or it's earlier, or maybe they just don't have it. Putting them to 2, and then maybe you top deck the gyre worm, and then or a Leroy if you have that, or they leave up a minion. That's better than they clear your board and they didn't have to gain armor because now they have a bunch of health, and then you never got to attack with your stuff, and then you just concede. So play the Zaremi when it's active, unless you can really easily see a better turn in the near future and you have something else to do right now. It can also even be good just to buy you a turn. Let's say it's turn 6 and they have a couple big things up and you want to Zenthal, but you don't have enough mana. This happened. This is a very specific situation, but it happened to me today. It was turn 6. I had Zaremi active, or I could activate it with a 1-mana dragon that I had in my hand. And they had a couple big things. And I'm well, I don't really have a board right now, but I can clear it with Amanthul this turn, quote unquote, if I play Zaremi. And I won that game. That was versus Demon Hunter, actually.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like Gyre Worm. Glacial Shard is super specific and ultimately just buys time by freezing the weapon. And sometimes they just break it with another weapon, or they just play the 5/6. So it's kind of the Spinetail Drake approach, right? That Druid has of hey, if we have a minion that we can play that kills the 5 health minion, that's pretty good.
And heals you for 5, which is the other piece, right?
Even better.
I was, No Hands had a list where he was running both double Gyre Worm and Leroy.
Yeah, that seems right. Because you're swapping out the Glacial Shards.
So, and Ignis also.
Oh,
Sure. Why not? If you're running a Forge card.
Yeah, rather than Hearth, just run Ignis.
Yeah.
Honestly,
yeah,
makes sense.
I like that.
It gives you some extra reach. I did have one game today where I had this enormous board versus a warrior. They had already renoed. They'd already brand. Their only out was poison death rattle from Ignis and then override it with the other weapon they got off Ignis because they brand, and of course they found it. And I'm like, I mean, they played to their outs, good for them, but bummer.
Yeah. Well, I have been... I suppose I'll do life first, and then I'll get to ladder. I had to go to the ER.
Again?
Again. Yeah. Today is, once again, my last day of prednisone. We'll see how tomorrow goes. It's a stronger dose this time. I'm scheduled to see a pulmonologist at the end of the month, so hopefully they will have a more long-term treatment plan that doesn't involve me just getting prescribed prednisone every week.
Yeah.
But
and you don't want to be on that forever.
Yeah. It's this awkward catch-22 situation of like, the prednisone makes me feel better, but I need to get good sleep to recover, and it is hard to get good sleep when I'm on the prednisone. So, thank you to, I mean, I guess I'll put this in Concede, but, shout out to everyone who's like, go to sleep, when they, see that it's late at night and I'm still playing ladder. That's the other thing. I'm at the ranks of like, I want to keep playing because I feel like it's the opposite reaction of other people. I'm like, I'm doing so well, so I feel good about myself. So, if I want to, make the number go down. But
so what you're saying is that take prednisone to increase your ladder performance. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I
don't
guess.
do that, kids.
Sure.
Don't do that. Kids, don't do drugs. It's just a joke.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to be on that long term.
Yeah,
I can see it helping in the short run. I've
been working on my hand buff tally, which I shared in the Discord. A lot of people have been doing pretty well with that. I feel like it's probably realistically a tier 2 deck. It's just not quite there into some of the matchups and players that I'm hitting in top 1K. Like, all I'm seeing is basically Shuffle Rogue, the odd Virus Rogue, Highlander Warrior, Nature Shaman, Rainbow, Death Knight, and Wheel Lock because they want to beat the Warriors, and Demon Hunter. Like, I don't know. I get that that's a lot of decks, but a lot of times it feels like it's mostly just Warrior, Warlock, and Rainbow DK. For a while, I was like not seeing any Demon Hunters, which was great and weird. But yeah, and the hand buff pally was just, I don't know, it was doing work. Because of the prevalence of the Rainbow DKs, I actually swapped out Painter's Virtue for the Forge card and Ignis. I forget what I took out for the Ignis, but it was just like, well, I keep getting Courtside Crushered, so I'm not getting value out of this Painter's Virtue anyway. And the main thing against Demon Hunter, which is, a little trickier than Mulligan before, but main thing is I want to forge onto play the Muscleotron on 3 and have a plushie in hand, again, with being able to remove their thing and heal. So, it can be a little tricky if you don't have that healing. I really like having the Jeweled Scarabs and just the little bit of, Discover and Excavate makes it different stuff is happening each game. And the other thing about not having Painter's Virtue anymore is I largely just hard mull for Excavate. I even against Warrior would probably keep the 6/5 rush because the number one thing is just play 4 Excavates as quickly as possible and then Azurite Dragon because you need everything to be a threat in that matchup. It is very bad if they get to play Boom Boss. That's how you lose. I one time beat a Warrior because I played Geppetto for a bunch of stuff, so the Boom Boss just destroyed 1 mana cards out of my hand, and I managed to. I did also get a Fizzle from an Excavate reward, so that helped. There was a Fizzle of the Geppetto, and I kind of protected the photo in my hand with the Geppetto 1-drops. But yeah, usually if they Boom Boss and survive, you're done. So that was fun, but eventually it just wasn't cutting it. And I was like, these matches are taking forever. I don't want to play Hunter or Demon Hunter. Painlock is okay. So I picked up Virus Rogue, and it's delightful.
That's not the adjective I would use, but okay.
It's going to be our Decksplanations. I totally get the negative sentiment around this, and it is awful to lose to. But I really like when you have situations of like, there's a specific thing you can do to win, and it probably wins you the game outright. And like, so it's just about these little, I guess, like game objectives you're going for, right? Like if you're a mage against Virus Rogue, you're just like, I must discover as much as possible to find the arcane spell, the star power, right? And we'll get into the specifics in Decksplanations, but it's almost like depending on the matchup, there's this mini objective that you're trying to achieve to find a way to kill the Zilliax, through stealth and untargetable. And as the rogue, I'm thinking about those things and like, okay, what can I do to survive long enough, to win quickly enough? I really love when I get a reborn of the scrap bots, because then if they kill it and it reborns once and they don't immediately clear that other side, you can give it reborn again, and that's just kind of a nightmare for them to deal with. And VS recently cut Hearth from the list. I like Hearth because it's a fun card to play, and this is the perfect kind of deck to get to play it, right? You'd go really hard on this one way to win, and if it doesn't work, then you Hearth and switch gears. And a lot of the Hearth hands are really fun. So,
well, if you're the person playing as the rogue, they're very fun. If you're the person playing against them, I did have a game where I cleared the Zilliax early, and I'm like, okay, what else are you gonna do? And then they played Hearth, and all of a sudden they were Libram Paladin, and
that's not the greatest one, but it's okay.
It's not great, but it sure does go long.
It does go long.
It takes forever because they have to keep playing the Librams and then playing the Penflinger and playing the Librams. And every turn takes a full 75 seconds. And nothing of value was accomplished, but they did it anyway.
Yeah. The ones I've liked have been like Hunter and Warrior and Priest. The Hunter and Priest basically because usually when I Hearth, it's because I'm against Warrior, and the only way I get there is with value. So those are sort of the best hands. And then the Warrior one, I think, is probably just most of the time the best one, because you just play Thaurissan weapon and then kill them the next turn.
Yeah.
Almost every time.
It actually has a game plan to end the game
almost every time.
The other ones. Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah. So anyway, that's been my guilty pleasure, and I just don't want to. The other thing is, Nature Shaman is terrible to play on a tablet, and I shouldn't do that anymore. So Virus Rogue is much easier to play on a tablet.
You just need a Bluetooth mouse.
No,
for your tablet.
No. Anyway, so yeah, that's how it's going for me. Hopefully, I will be able to breathe without stressing about it someday soon. But
that would be nice. We hope that for you, because that sounds awful otherwise. So hopefully they figure out what's going on, or just you don't, or this round of Prednisone does the thing. One or the other.
Yeah.
So,
but we do actually have a fairly large patch, not really from our perspective of things, but there's big stuff happening on the Battlegrounds side. So we're not going to cover all the BG stuff, but a little bit of the BG stuff, and take us away with it.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
Yeah, so we have the patch notes for patch 29.2, which is going live on Tuesday, April 16th, with Battlegrounds Duos and Season 7 Once Upon a Tavern. We talked about a lot of this last week. that the main mechanic is the duos mode. There's no new mechanic in Battlegrounds Season 7, but there's a big minion shakeup. A lot of new minions. There are 65 minions that are rotating out. There are like 11, it's somewhere between 10 and 15 minions that are coming back. Some with changes, some with not. I don't think we need to talk through duos and the new Battleground season a lot. I guess we could talk about what's going to be in the new Battleground season, but duos we talked about a lot last week. You can go back and listen to last week's show. We're very excited about it, but there's nothing that's changed. There's no new information about duos since last week. So that you can go read the summary in the patch notes, but what did get revealed were a lot of the season 7 specific heroes and minions and mechanics. So again, we talked about the new heroes that for duos only. Those are all the new heroes. I don't believe we have any other heroes that are not duo specific. Though we did have some updates to some of the heroes. Thorim, who has the passive at the start of the game, discover a tier 7 minion to get after you spend 75 gold. Argent Braggart is no longer in his pool. Argent Braggart at the beginning of combat, set itself to the attack and toughness of the biggest minion on the board. So that's no longer there. And there's a Papa Bear who summons 4 3/3 mama or 3/4/4 Mama Bears that give +4/+4 to beasts that are summoned. But Mama Bear herself is not in the minion pool. Malygos can now target it has a 0 mana hero power that replaces a card with a random one of the same tier. It can now target tavern spells it couldn't before. Captain Hooktusk's hero power, I believe, just went down to 0 gold. I think that's what the change is. It's remove a minion, discover one from a tier lower to get. I believe that was 1. It doesn't say what it used to be. Patchwork isn't changing, but it's specifying that you're starting with 30 extra health as opposed to starting at 60 health, which is just a text only change for duos, because duos your health pool is different. So it's making that a little bit clearer. God almighty, I'm gonna mess this up. Akazamzarak. See, this is how you know I'm not a full-time BG's player, because I should know how to pronounce Akazamzarak and I don't. So he discovered a secret and then put it into the battlefield. So now instead of it being a pool, it's going to be a static 4 secrets that you can choose from. Which means that Ice Block is being removed from it is the most important thing out of that.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's going to be Venom Strike, Trap, Pack Tactics, Auto Defense Matrix, and Redemption. So yeah, Ice Block is out of Battlegrounds entirely. So that's been Ice Block always seems to be a bone of contention. So it's just out of there. And
we do know that from Standard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's higher lows and lower highs, right? You don't get the insane hit an Ice Block, which usually like you would hit it at least once per game. Like it almost was like Akazamzarak's hero power was get Ice Block at least once per game and also do some other stuff the rest of the time. But there were kind of some not great options in there that you just ended up with. So kind of nice to have a pool where you know exactly what you're going to get every time.
Yeah. Oh, and Jake Herrick is in chat and is correcting me on Hooktusk. It used to be that you would choose one of 2, and now it's a discover, which means you get 3 options, which makes sense. And Dino Tamer Brand's passive has reduced the number of Battlecry minions you need to play to get a Brand Bronzebeard. Used to be 5, I believe, and now it's 4. So there's a lot of new minions as well. I don't think we're not going to go through all of them, and I like that they put this level of detail in the patch notes, but the patch notes take forever to scroll through whenever there's a Battlegrounds update because you have to go through all the cards. But there's a whole bunch of new minions that it's going to take some time to get adjusted to. They've added Zilliax modules into the minion pool. So they each show up 1/3 as often, but you can triple them with any other Zilliax modules. And then when they triple, it combines all the keywords from all 3 Zilliax modules that you triple, which is very cool. Yeah. So you can get Taunt, Reborn, Divine Shield, Stealth, or Wind Fury, and then when you triple them, it just gets all of those. So it's or Magnetic. Sorry, that's the other one. So that's very cool. So I don't think we're really qualified to go through the strategic points of all of this. There's been a lot of reworks. Again, a lot of minions have been taken out. Banana Slamma in particular is one. I mean, they did a full beast rework, but that was like the keystone of the beast comp. So that's gone. Razor Gore is gone. Just Kangor's Apprentice and Omega Buster for mechs are gone. I'm not sure that I don't think the Divine Shield 2 back. I can never remember his name. I should know it by now, but I don't remember his name. But there's a whole bunch of stuff that's going out. And we are getting Taragosa back, which is interesting because that is always kind of dangerous, feels like. So we'll see if that's going to be what could go wrong, right? So that'll be something. And we're also Kindly Grandmother is back too. So that's fun. It's tier 1. And Wrath Reaver is going up to getting +2/+1 instead of +1/+1. So, or the golden version is getting +2/+1 twice. Actually, that's all that's changed. It's always been +2/+1, but the golden version is getting it twice now. So it's going to be a little bit better when it's tripled. So, Demons has kind of been on the struggle bus a little bit, as far as I understand. So, and every time I try to play it, I end up, barely squeaking into the top 4 if I'm lucky. But so there's a lot of information. I would suggest you go through and read the patch notes for all the details, and you will have plenty of opportunities to watch these in action. We will get to actually, I guess we can talk about that now. There is going to be the Grab a Friend event on the 15th, which is going to have a bunch of Battlegrounds streamers effectively doing a theory crafting event. But there is also going to be find it. There we go. There's also going to be an event this weekend where a number of creators are going to be playing Duos games all weekend. So Voxy, Tice, Regis Kilbin, Dexter, Frodan, Nina is Noob, Slissa, and Covert Go Blue. Most of those names you will recognize as former Hearthstone streamers, or I don't know if Slissa completely gave up on Battlegrounds or she was just taking a break. Because she's been doing TFT for the last couple sets. So and Regis has been kind of splitting his time between Hearthstone and Snap. But and Voxy's a Magic streamer, though. She does unless we don't Weasel Tunneler is in the meta, I suppose. Then then she's a Hearthstone streamer. But so that's going to be an interesting event. And I think that the idea of this is really to promote the game to additional audiences. I mean, most of these folks, with the exception of Tice, and even Tice has been dabbling elsewhere lately, have been playing predominantly in other games, but they're also all, except for Covert Go Blue, I'm not really familiar with him, but they're all folks who have been connected to Hearthstone in one way or another, or used to stream Hearthstone. So they have a connection to the game, but they also are predominantly playing other games right now. So this is an opportunity to bring some of those audiences back to Hearthstone. I mean, particularly, I think Frodan and Slissa is particularly playing TFT. I think that's probably the most relevant crossover there, just because they're both auto battlers.
Yeah.
But
it's Frodan. Come on.
Yeah.
We haven't had Frodan in forever.
Yeah, that's really exciting. And I will say, probably with cross-programming Mask Store is what I'll be most interested in. But as someone who kind of, when I watch most Battlegrounds streams, it isn't that accessible for me because I don't know enough about what's happening to really be able to follow what they're saying about it. And so having creators who, for the most part, have some familiarity with the mode, they're not going to be like completely flailing, but who will be approaching it more like how I would be approaching it, or how somebody who maybe hasn't played Battlegrounds or played more interested in other games right now. I think that's more accessible to those players as well as a way for them to notice. And so I think it's smart to try to broaden that a little bit. And I think that Duos is a good opportunity to try to get people into the mode.
Oh, I think Voxy might be completely flailing.
Voxy might be completely flailing. That is true.
And that might be the point.
But very entertainingly, I'm sure.
Yes. I mean, she usually plays Magic the Gathering drafts, which,
It's
not an
the same
auto
thing. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's for the entertainment value.
Yeah. So, I mean, Frodan, I mean, I still watch some of his content from TFT, and he's very good at I mean, he always has been, but he's very good at breaking things down and making them so that like a normal person can understand what's going on. So I think that, that's also really something that could be very beneficial if you're trying to figure out what's going on in BGs. I would expect that his streams might be pretty good for that. So he's very talented. He's always been very talented at that. And he's just moved to a different game where he does that. But now he's doing auto battler things. So it's still he knows auto battlers. He knows Hearthstone. You got chocolate in my peanut butter, etc. So that'll be a fun event. And then if you want to watch the actual Battleground streamers doing that, you can do that on Monday. That'll be most of the day, and you can watch the Battleground streamers playing with each other. So that's it for Battlegrounds. We did get, as promised, earlier in the week, had tweeted that there was going to be an off-cycle change, singular, to address Demon Hunter, and we have gotten that in this patch. So Umpire's Grasp is going from 3 mana to 4 mana. Dev comments, since our last balance patch, Demon Hunter has been a clear power and play rate outlier, warping the meta across all ranks. Pushing back its ability to cheat out powerful minions should bring it more in line with the rest of the meta. We're accelerating our normal balance patch window to address this. One outlier with patch 29.2, but are keeping our normal post-patch hotfix balance window, give us a chance to make wider changes in the coming weeks once the meta is less warped around one dominant interaction.
Yep. It makes sense. like Umpire's Grasp is just too fast, especially on coin. You know, the ability to get a 6/5 on turn 3 that is giving you another 3 mana 6/5. Like, part of it is the weirdness of the interaction that I think people didn't expect / think about, right? That Chopper gives you another 3 discounted 6/5. And that was just a little too good. But when you're playing Naga DH with this just thrown in there, double Umpire's Grasp, double Chopper, and people are like, well, let's build Highlander Demon Hunter, but with double Umpire's Grasp, double Chopper. That's a problem. That's a power outlier. So it's been super warping the meta. Like, I do think it's beatable, but it's just a little too good. And I think it will still be good. It's just, you're going to have that little bit of extra breathing room. You know, play rate's going to take a hit. Maybe this will kill it. Maybe it won't. I honestly think it's okay if it kills it. Because it's just a little too powerful and warping. But I think it's powerful enough that it could stick around, and maybe people just do a little bit of refinement here and there. I mean, it's a lot of damage. Like, the weapon hits you for 6, then the Chopper comes down, usually a little too early, and if you don't have an answer to deal with it immediately, that's a problem. And sometimes they hit an Inquisitor and are hitting you with a 6/5 on their attack the next turn. Like, it's just, or they get a bunch of Magtheridons, and though that's 6 damage you can't deal with. Like, it's...
Yeah, or they get the Lifesteal Taunt and just play it on 4 alongside the 6/5, and now they have 2 6/5s.
Well, and you still, again, this might kill this type of deck, but it is, the whole thing is a turn slower. The weapon itself is now more of a Raging Fell Screamer, but it's a Raging Fell Screamer that tutors. And then you do still have the 3 mana 6/5 followed by another 3 mana 6/5 interaction. So you're still getting 2 discounted 6/5s. They're just not coming down on 4 or its coin. So,
and it's a little more in line with like what I think we expected it to be used for, which is like tutor Magtheridon and discount. I mean, no one's actually running Magtheridon because they just discover it with the pool so small. But, you can imagine that it kind of is put a little more in its place of like, hey, this is for tutoring big demons, not this is for tutoring one mid-rangey demon that gives you a stupid amount of value and tempo.
Or you still do that, right? Because I mean, you still get 2 6/5s on 6 this way. That's not nothing, but or you could coin out 2 6/5s on 5. I guess it's on 5, but like I think the other thing is that instrument tech isn't going to immediately curve into this, which was the other problem. Yeah, that like you were getting it on 3, you're drawing it for turn 3 all the time. It's hitting you in the face with the weapon. On top of everything else, like you're going to have to find something to do for another turn to start getting this online. And then on 4 that you're just playing a 3/2 weapon. Like that's a little bit harder than on 3. And again, it's not getting the damage going that fast. Cause it's like, you already look down and it's like, well, how am I at 15 already? Because they've just been hitting you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the thing is like it's the damage on the weapon is not irrelevant on top of everything else. So, I don't know that you necessarily would change it. I think the window shopper interaction, as long as the pool is still tiny, like this is a 4-set meta. Small discover pools get abused. That is what we're doing. I mean, that was the entire thesis statement of John Bray's Dragon Board. Was just like abusing small discover pools, or just small random pools. So that's what's going to happen. But it just needs to slow down a little bit and give decks a chance to get under it a little bit. But also, it might get better if people's tech less for it. If you're not facing double Glacial Shard in every deck, then, I mean, is that any different than if you got Glacial Sharded and it slowed it down for your opponent having to play a card to do it? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, depending on how much meta shifts, if Rainbow DK takes out Courtside Crusher again, then things even out. I don't know if that's going to happen because that weapon's insane, but it was probably a mistake not to be playing it in the first place. But yeah, I think there's something to be said for the fact that like people are going to take out those very specific tech cards, and that will balance things out a bit. We'll see. I do hope that it is strictly a 4-set deck and they add some more demons and it completely goes away because it's just annoying. But
I would love to see an actual big demon deck where we're actually running the demons. I don't know if that's going to happen now. I do think if Demon Hunter is targeted less and then it still has 3 mana 6/5s later, then that might work out all right. But it will absolutely take a play rate hit and it will be weaker with this change. So I think it'll do what they want it to do. And then we'll probably have another 9 days or so is about the next balance window. So if it was exactly that, then this patch is coming out on the 16th. So then I wouldn't expect more changes until maybe around the 25th of April, which is a Thursday. But with that change, even that single change, because it's been warping the meta so much, will probably be a significant shakeup.
Yeah, and I want to see Demon Hunter do other things. Like every Demon Hunter deck right now is a shopper deck. So
yeah,
and also I'm tired of random secrets.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I never thought it was going to be Demon Hunter that was spamming random mage and hunter secrets against me, but it is, and it's powerful, and it's really annoying.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess we probably have to have a conversation about Demon Hunter that it's either like completely unplayable or broken, and there's no in between. And
says the priest player.
Well, yeah, but it's like that's generally the sign of an unhealthy class, right? Because like we've had that. It's either been it's just been broken or unplayable, and there's no tier 2 Demon Hunter, right? There hasn't been for a while.
There was a previous big DH that was a perfectly serviceable deck without being especially powerful. I think just Demon Hunter is the type of class where what people really like to play are the broken versions of the decks.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair too.
Relic Demon Hunter was good but not oppressive for quite a while. Although that was longer ago. There was some aggro Demon Hunters that I think were fine. But
Death Rattle DH was chill. I like that one.
Then, we have had like Spell DH and They have been a few times where they had a card that was very warping, such as the one that, ones that like discourage you from playing minions, for example. That's always not a great interaction. But I think there's for the class. I hope so.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens in the mini set too, because that should be coming up
Maybe there'll be more demons
soon. Because we got the harbinger of the mini set in this patch notes too, but we haven't gotten there yet. So, we have a new arena season starting on April 16th. It will again be a curated pool across all Hearthstone expansions, but the pools are going to be adjusted. What they'll be adjusted to doesn't say. You'll find out when you play it. But the first pick of each arena draft will still be a legendary card, and that will be the only legendary card that you get offered. Other than that, it'll be these curated pools, and that'll be fun. Arena's been fun. I haven't played a lot of it, but when I've played it, I've enjoyed it. So hopefully they'll keep tweaking and keep making that interesting. We got an update on Twist. The good news is that there's a new Twist season coming with several unique decks and new hero powers. The bad news is it's not coming till June. So hopefully it's good.
Yeah, I think they're trying something really different, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like they sort of heard people on the, hey, there's a lot of Twist stuff that people don't want to invest in, right? And so it sounds like this one, if they're pre-made things with unique hero powers, that theoretically sounds like something you're not going to have to sink money into to be able to play.
Yeah.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
But I'm happy with Sander right now, so sure, take your time. I don't know. That's and I'm excited for duos, right? So with duos coming, I don't mind not having that to fall back on. And similarly, Arena is great right now. So like there's other options to sort of fall back on right now.
Yeah. Celestalon has also tweeted to clarify that this may sound like duels, but it's not duels. So just because there are new hero powers does not mean they're doing something similar to duels. It just happens to have some new hero powers. Whatever they're doing, it sounds like it's a little bit more involved than what we've seen in the past. We'll see when we get there, but Twist enjoyers, you're gonna have to wait a little while longer, unfortunately. So we have a new in-game event called Double Trouble, which is the first choose your own adventure in-game event, where there are 2 tracks that you can choose from. One is more traditional Hearthstone focused, and one is more Battlegrounds focused. So the traditional Hearthstone track will give you 4 Whizbang's Workshop packs, 2 standard packs, and a Urel the Knight Paladin skin. The Battlegrounds track will give you 1 Whizbang's Workshop catch-up pack, 1 standard pack, and a Golem Curator Battleground skin. Presumably, the catch-up pack will be more valuable to one who is playing predominantly Battlegrounds because they will not have as much of a collection, so there should be a little bit more lucrative for them. But it's either way, it depending on which one you care about. Pretty much if you care about the Whizbang's Workshop packs or you care about the Battleground skin, that's really the way to go with this. But either one should be good. There's only 3 nodes on the event, and hopefully it won't start with Geppetto Joymancer or Joymancer Geppetto with this time. So I finally did play. I finally did clear it by jamming games of Hero Power Druid and Casual, and it took me 5 or 6 games to actually live long enough to be able to play the Geppetto. And then it was against a Control Priest, and they emoted at me when I played it and they had lethal on board. I'm like, buddy, I've already won. Like, I don't care about that. First of all, A, it's casual. What are you doing emoting at me? B, I already won because I played the Geppetto. That's literally all I cared about in this interaction. So you do you.
They should have been happy you played the Geppetto so they could kill it.
I know, right? Like, it should have been it should have been a thank you emote is what it should have been. But what are you gonna do? So we also, speaking of the mini set, Heroic Tavern Brawl is returning. So Heroic Tavern Brawl will be coming back May 1st to May 8th. It is the usual prize table for Heroic Brawliseum. There are no additional cosmetics or anything else. It is the usual play to 12 wins, and then you get your 50 packs and a pile of dust and a pile of gold, and 3 golden legendaries. As usual, the disclaimer is if you should not be even looking at the rewards. If you are going to play this, the real reward, aside from the friends we made along the way, is the ability to post a 12-win screenshot to Twitter for engagement.
Mhm.
So if that is not something that is the actual reward for you, set yourself a budget and don't go over it, because the returns you will get on Heroic Brawliseum really don't make sense until you get to like at least 7 wins, probably closer to 9. And that's significantly harder than it sounds.
If you think about, say you have a 50% win rate, you might not even get 3 and 3 if you just happen, right? It just statistically, a 50% win rate, you might not even get 3 wins, So it's not, there are people like Edelweiss who consistently do well with this. But if it's not something that you've consistently done well with in the past, what I tend to do is I budget like one run, maybe 2 runs, depending on how much gold I've saved up. And I treat it as an opportunity to have a kind of a little bit higher stakes tournament-esque form of play. And because I'm getting that experience, that's what I'm paying the gold for. The rewards are, if you're the kind of person who's going to be having lots and lots of wins on this, you probably don't need the rewards that much. Maybe not. Maybe you're free to play and also just really good at Heroic Brawl, in which case this makes sense. But for most people, it is something to plan ahead, like your Vegas money. We're doing this for fun, and we're going to spend up to this much money on it.
It depends on how you define need. I now need all my decks to be golden because that's just what I've been doing for everything except Druid now. But yeah, so I could use those rewards to buy me time until the next yearly dusting.
That's true, and this is.
I mean, you also could spend some of your 70 bajillion dust that you have in your Scrooge McDuck vault underneath your basement in Ohio.
I'm down from 80K to like 30K.
Yeah, I mean, that's still a lot of dust.
This is also how Edel gets the mini set. She gets so many packs. But she just opens the mini set this way.
I don't get with mini set with gold anymore. I just open packs and craft, and it's fine. But I'm a little bummed. I get it, but I'm a little bummed that they got bullied into not doing cosmetic rewards for the Heroic Tavern Brawl. I get it, but also, man, all these people that are just like so upset that they used to be able to buy every hero skin. I just want a thing to say, hey, look, I did the thing. But oh wow,
they have one. It's called a golden card back. So speaking of hero skins, there is a new cosmetic type of diamond hero skins, which are between regular hero skins and legendary hero skins. They include a 3D portrait and animations, new voice lines, and unique visual effects. The first one will be a shaman hero called Nerzul, who I'm sure has some rich WoW lore that I know nothing about.
Oh, I can do that real quick.
Okay, yeah.
Nerzul is the first Lich King.
Oh, okay.
So he was, an orc shaman that got tempted by Sargeras, and was cursed into being the first Lich King. This is very oversimplified. And it's from Nerzul that Arthas becomes, gets like spoken to and guided to Frostmourne and into becoming the next Lich King.
Okay.
Because Nerzul wants to be free.
Yeah, fair.
Pass on the curse.
So we will, what they're saying is that going forward, their plan is for legendary hero skins to feel truly legendary like Cthulhu does. So these are probably going to be more like the legendary skins that we've seen outside of something like a Cthulhu. it's still got like the wince. They still jiggle around a lot. It's still got like the damage on the upper left, so you can see them wincing when they get hit. It still has a lot of animation. So something like, MC Blinktron, for example, is probably more likely to be a diamond than a legendary going forward. And something like Cthulhu, which is just completely reimagining the whole portrait, will be more of like a legendary. So we will see what that looks like and what cost that comes in at. But, that'll be interesting.
Yeah. My guess, and we don't know what cost this will be yet, is that maybe the legendary portraits were not selling nearly as well as they would hope, but they don't want to lower the price on the legendary portrait, so they're putting in a mid-tier portrait.
Yeah.
But that's purely speculation. If they are a little cheaper, I will be more likely to buy them. I will say that.
I'm going to put my Price is Right guess at $20. That's going to be my Price is Right guess. So we'll see if I get to go to the Showcase Showdown. So as always, we have bug fixes and game improvements. Duels is going away as of this patch. Get your Duels runs in now. If you have a heroic Duels run that is active, you will get reimbursed with a tavern ticket, the same way that if you have an arena run that is active or the arena season changes, you get a tavern ticket in compensation. Those tavern tickets can still be used in arena, just not in heroic duels anymore. They have increased the minimum specs to run Hearthstone on iOS and Android. So you need 3 gigs of RAM in your device, and iPhones 6S, 7, and 8 are no longer supported. Now, those are ancient phones, by the way. Like, my daughter had an iPhone 8 that we had passed down to her that she refused to get rid of because it still had the home button until about a year ago, when it finally just stopped being able to take calls. It was already 5 or 6 years old at that point. So these are very, very old phones, but just be aware that if you have an old phone that you're just using for a Hearthstone machine or something like that, it may not run anymore. So just be aware of that. Actually remove the tip that read, in part, this tip was removed. Translators, please leave this blank. So I've seen that screenshot on Twitter more than once over the last couple of weeks. So that was exciting. Fixed a bug where Queen Ajara's Ring of Tides counted as a 1-mana card for purposes of cards like Pip the Potent and Skulking Geist, even before transforming. So that's fun. I wonder who found that, but okay.
Someone playing Naga Priest and Wild, I guess.
I guess. Fix a bug where several totem summoning cards still generated Strength Totem instead of Wrath of Air Totem. That's supposed to be gone everywhere, so they just needed to clean those up. Fix a bug where Khadgar's Wisdom Ball could target friendly targets if all enemy targets were untargetable. So if you have something that, like, what is it that targets just minions in the Wisdom Ball?
I don't think there is, because it's just like Frostbolt and Fireball. But
yeah,
there are some fringe things, like there's a thing in Wilds that makes the hero untargetable, right?
Yeah, like I guess if like they play the rogue Death Knight that makes you stealthed,
sure,
and you can't target, then you could fireball your own face, which would be unpleasant, I would imagine. So so that won't happen anymore. Presumably it'll just like not do anything in that case.
Well, it would like cast arcane missiles instead, right?
I don't know if it removes it from the pool or if it just fizzles out, right? Or if it just doesn't cast.
I would assume that it would be set up to like not do things that are completely useless. So I think it would just mean it would favor casting a secret in that situation or an arcane missiles. I
guess it's a matter of how smart and helpful the Wisdom Ball is coded to be. Because if it's just looking at board state and not looking at the fact that the hero stealthed, then it might pick a fireball and just like not.
It can also cast Polymorph. We have been pointed out in the chat, so you wouldn't want that.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So if they have all stealth minions.
Or no minions, or yeah. If they have Zilliax looking at you, that would be a great thing to polymorph, but it's elusive.
Right. Yeah.
And often stealth.
So
So that's probably the thing that would have come up the most often, right? Is it like it randomly casts polymorph, but then it's like, oh wait, they have minions, but I can't target them. You have minions, and then it polymorphs one of yours. Yeah.
And remember, the way that it works is not like Zephyrus, where it's figuring out like what the optimal thing would be. It's just like looking at certain variables and then limiting its pool and then picking one from at random, right?
Right.
So it could pick something that is based on the variables that it's being fed, could look like something that it would want to do, but then the board state is such that it wouldn't.
Right. I think my interpretation of this bug fix, though, is that, like, let's say that polymorph situation, it will now no longer think polymorph is an okay thing to cast there. Because I don't think they ever want it to just fizzle.
I don't know. I guess that we'll have to get some clarification on that. But there's and one other bug that is very, very funny. I guess unless you're on the other side of it. Fixed a bug where High Priestess Jeklik discarded with Solarium would keep the Solarium discard enchantment, leading it to be discarded and multiply every turn.
Oh, man. That's great.
Oh, the person who found this out.
Like that.
Yeah. So you wanted wild? There's wild. There you go. So that's most of it. You know, they've also adjusted some daily and weekly quests that have been adjusted to be harder to complete, but will grant more XP. No details on that, but if you see something that looks a little bit different than you're used to, that's why. So that's the patch. We also got some the other big news that we got this week is official confirmation that Blizzard is returning to China. So Blizzard has entered into an agreement, both Blizzard and Microsoft Gaming, with NetEase, who was the prior operator of Blizzard Games in China. So that is, they basically are just re-upping the contract that got ripped up about a year and a half ago. So it sounds like hopefully it's going to take some time for them to turn the servers back on. Obviously, things have changed a little bit. It's not like you can just like fire these things back up and everything is the way that it was before, but they're going to be launching various games over the next few months and bringing things back up. They specifically called out Hearthstone as well as World of Warcraft, Overwatch, Diablo, and StarCraft. And they've also entered into agreement to explore bringing new NetEase titles to Xbox consoles and other platforms. So this is really good. China was the biggest region and it wasn't close. And at least some of the botting that we've seen is, at least the beginning, I don't know if it still is the case now, was tied to, Chinese players trying to rebuild their collections on another server. So having them be able to play on their own servers and not have to, do sketchy VPN things and whatnot will be a big boon both to them and to the rest of us, because having a healthy China scene is also very good for competitive Hearthstone in general. Just in terms of innovation and things like that. Like a lot of the interesting decks come out of China, and then you see, but it's Chinese players that are just playing on other servers now.
I do think it would be a difficult question as a Chinese player. I mean, I guess it depends on how much the VPN is a problem. But if you've painstakingly built a collection now on another server, then now you have to rebuild the standard version, at least, again, now on the China server. I would also worry a little bit about I'm sure that they will be keeping an eye on bots in the China server once it reopens, which that wouldn't affect someone on the Americas or EU server, but it's very good news that it's opening up, and there's a lot of stuff to work through for the team on how to make that transition for people.
Yeah, I'd imagine there are going to be more catch-up packs and things like that. Like, I mean, pretty much I think all of the standard cards have rotated out since China shut down. So there's going to have to be a lot of collection rebuilding in general on the China server. So I would imagine there's going to be catch-up packs or probably, promotions or something like that to get people up to speed and get their collections rebuilt. I don't know what that would look like, but I'm sure that they're going to have to do some of that just to be able to get everyone caught up to where standard is right now. Okay, so one other piece of news before we get into tournaments. So there was a bug with Diamond King Plush and Diamond Owlonius where you were not getting rerolls. So if you bought those in the first week of the expansion and you didn't get a reroll, the next time you log in, you will get a reroll. It'll just pop up and then you can reroll that non-diamond legendary, assuming that you haven't already dusted it. So that just took a little bit of time to fix, but now you'll be able to do that. So if you were affected, then you will be whole. So that is the news. But we also have a Masters Tour, and we actually had a tournament take place this weekend. So we have some fairly significant tournament news to talk about for a change.
It's the grand tournament.
So we have another Masters Tour, of course, coming up this weekend, but I think I want to flip the order we have here in the show notes and cover the Feno tournament, which happened last weekend. I didn't get around to watching it, but I heard a lot of good things. There was someone who I'm not familiar with, but Oncrad HS, who did a bit of stats analysis on the EU side. The EU top, or I guess actually the top cut. So it was kind of interesting. It was like there were two sides of the tournament on the different regions, and I believe the top cut was from both. It was sort of like, so you had half Americas, half EU playing in the top cut, which was Pace, Norwis, Liquidox, Joker, Kubu, J Rose, Lasagna, and Sun Q. So I recognize a few of those, mostly Pace, Norwis, and Liquidox. But
Lasagna's been a high-level player for a while, too. That's been playing in these tournaments, so that's a recognizable name. Yeah.
And we ended up with Kubu taking first, Liquidox taking second, and then Sun Q won out the third place match over Pace. But in terms of just a little bit of fun stat stuff. So the Tyrant was Highlander Warrior. It was in 74 of 122 lineups, more than all the Demon Hunter builds combined. So players definitely needed their lineups to beat at least either the Demon Hunter or Warrior for it to be good against other stuff. And Warrior did really well overall. It was definitely a solid bring. Well against Nature Shaman, Rainbow DK, did okay against, even the Shopper DHs and Dreamy Priest, etc. But there was a lot of people trying to target Warrior with middling results. 27 wheel Warlocks and such. But that didn't, went okay, but not amazing. But of course, lot number 2 bring was the Shopper DH, 52 lineups. Did fine. I don't know if everyone brought the Naga variant at the MT. We'll see. Everyone brought the Naga variant. That's just I think that was the takeaway was, hey, why don't we just have this potential way of closing out the game that if you hit it is kind of unstoppable. Third was Arimi Priest, which the only bad matchups are DH and Sludge or Pain Lock, which not a lot of people are bringing Pain Lock. If you just ban the Demon Hunter, then you're good to go. Nature Shaman, I think, is always kind of a complicated deck. Just because it's hard to play and it can sometimes lose to itself if you don't draw Flash. Not as often as I feel like, Naga DH could sometimes lose from just not drawing Sharpshooter, but it can happen. And it like it's very dependent as well on your opponent hitting their particular card that's good in the matchup, etc. It struggles to Shopper DH and Token Hunter and Zarimi Priest in theory because like they all can just be a little bit too fast and just hit you in the face. You're not trying to deal with stuff in the early game. But also sometimes it can just get out armored by Warrior. So Nature Shaman I think performed like a little worse than it's supposed to on paper in this tournament. It even didn't do great versus like Sith Mage and Warlock, which is not supposed to happen. Definitely not supposed to happen. And yeah, the Warlock, it was like it had dominance over Highlander Warrior, but that didn't make up for it being mediocre into a lot of other matchups. There's Sith Mage, Zarimi Priest, Chopper DH. So it kind of seemed like just not worth bringing to target the Warrior unless you somehow also brought 3 other decks that really hard target Warrior, which it seems like no one actually ended up super doing. It did do quite well against Rainbow DK. Seems like Rainbow DK mostly slaughtered Chopper DH, and
well, I mean, it did its job. Like if you're doing it, if you're bringing a target DH lineup, then that's what it's supposed to do, right? So
yeah. And then Sith Mage was kind of the just solid choice. I think Sith Mage is a comfort pick for a lot of people, and it's just like it can win against sort of everything. It's less polarizing because there's so much discover, so much opportunity to just kind of find a way out of any matchup. So, again, didn't get around to watching it myself. I meant to, and then other stuff was happening, like being in the AR. But it's very cool that to have this third-party big community tournament. I would say very successful, and I really love the idea of having kind of these 2 sides. We've got America's side, EU side, and then you've got the top cut from each in a final cut. So very unique approach. But besides that, for this weekend, which I suppose by the time many folks are hearing this just happened, or maybe it has the finals to go through, Masters Tour taking place, Masters Tour Spring. I will not be casting this one. Dawn is going to be on the desk this time around. So everyone show up for Dawn for me. I'm hoping to co-stream it a bit. I've got some stuff going on this weekend. We're at the end of our D&D campaign, and this was pretty short notice when they announced the date for this event. So it's kind of just as well that I don't have to tell my group that, like, hey, we need to reschedule like the climax of the campaign. And I'm also seeing an Owl City concert on Sunday. So, but hopefully I can co-stream some of like tomorrow or Friday and Saturday. My teammate is also competing, so I've been playtesting with him with not feeling bad at all about my bias. So, maybe a little overconfidently, I feel like he just had the hard read. A little bit of luck as always, but so Molestar is my teammate on Swagoa Gaming, and he brought a full target DH lineup. Did not bring DH himself because then you got a mirror to deal with. Odin Warrior, not Reno, right? Mage, again, kind of shot against everything, and it has a little bit of extra tech, right? You've got double cryo, double frostbolt, and then there's also a copy of Frostlich Cross Stitch with, that Frost Alley can be a nightmare for them to deal with. Death Knight, we've established, is pretty solid in that matchup. And then Shaman. But it's not Nature Shaman. It's not Highlander Shaman. This is just like his Shutterwalk control Shaman. This is the I remove everything and you cry Shaman, right? There's not really a win condition. I guess you could say Ignis. I expect the games to go long for this one. I don't expect it to beat like Highlander Warrior ever. It just It is gain armor, gain life, dirty rat important cards. This is the unique deck of the tournament for sure. I think he's going to have some fans just for the deck building choice here. Literally every other player brought Demon Hunter. Various kinds of Shopper DH. I think most, if not all of them, include Blind Eye Sharpshooter because this level play, people like
it's
that.
It's like 60-40 from, I'm assuming that the ones that Donkey says that Donkey has a Shopper DH and not Naga Shopper DH don't have Sharpshooter.
Gotcha.
So it looks like it's split. It does look like it's a 60-40 split in favor of Sharpshooter. So, yeah.
Right. Which, the Sharpshooter can be an element that just messes you up because they've got the curve. And what are you going to do? Which might be why some folks didn't go for a target Demon Hunter lineup. But it seemed to work out pretty well in our testing. And definitely going to be cheering him on. But kind of happy I don't have to cast this. Because those games are going to take a minute. I wouldn't be surprised if his Shaman gets banned a bunch.
That's the kind of like, I don't know what the hell this is, so I'm banning it approach to it. Because like, there's no way you've tested against that. Like, there might be doing some testing right now against that deck, but I wouldn't feel comfortable that I know that matchup. And certainly whoever's piloting it is not Molstar and is not going to know how to pilot that deck in these matchups the way that he's going to.
Yeah, I mean, you expect with a deck like that like, okay, like Nature Shaman's getting banned from Molstar's side. Probably most of the time. I don't know what would ever be a better ban than the Nature Shaman. But, if you've got, as many people do, Pain Lock and Demon Hunter, I don't know how Pain Lock does. Maybe it's just like too many stats too quickly. That could be a thing. But, Zarimi Priest, it's pretty good against Zarimi Priest too.
Threads of Despair, man, is a really good card against Zarimi Priest.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, I'm not saying this Shaman, right? You just like...
Oh, yeah.
You got the Storms, you got the Baking Soda Volcanoes, there's, Discovers from Lightning Reflexes and Amphibious Elixir to do that.
Yeah, that sounds pretty tough.
Conductivity Altered Chord. Like, it's...
Oh, my God. You've got Wandmaker to give you more hexes and lightning storms from Thrall's Gift. Oh, God, this is disgusting. I might have to play this on stream tomorrow.
I don't know if it's a good ladder deck, because again...
I don't care.
I don't think
I'm taking my rank anyway.
I don't think it can beat Highlighter Warrior, which I haven't seen any Odin Warriors on ladder. But, yeah, it's...
That's okay. If they're like me, they've all given up after running into too many Warlocks and Rainbow DKs.
Sure, yeah. But, in terms of other lineups... again, like we said, everyone has some kind of Shopper DH. Some people have included Hearth in their, various lists like DH or Zarimi Priest. I think when you're at a tournament like this, it's just hard to say no to the possibility of like you hit a bad matchup and you run out of steam and you're just dead. Like people want to have that % chance of winning the bad matchup. And Hearth can sometimes do that. So
this is a lot of Zarimi Priest, a lot more Painlock, or as the players are calling it, custom Warlock. And that's a deck also that we probably should just touch on really quickly, because I don't know that most people have seen that, but this is basically Handlock but faster. It's running a lot of the.
No, it's not.
It's doing a lot of self-damage to get Molten Giants and Imprisoned Horrors down quickly, and then just kind of...
That is not...
That's what I mean by Handlock, but faster.
Sure. I think it is much more akin to Draw Rogue. Just in the sense of, like, you are doing a silly mini-objective to make free giants. Handlock, like, yeah, you're keeping your hand size up, you're tapping in the earlier game. This deck is, like... Flame Imp, Spirit Bomb, Elementium Geode, Malefic Rook, right? And Blood Treant or the Trog. I guess I don't actually know if people are running the Rush Trog.
Exile?
Yeah, it seems like most have gone for Blood Treant. But it just like, I'm going to set myself to 15 as quickly as possible, or 10, and then play Molten Giants and have such a big board that it doesn't matter that I'm at 10 life. There's a bit of reach in the form of Symphony of Sins and Popgar
You
the
got Forge
Putrid.
of Wills. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, Forge of Wills is just insane if you're making big stuff. Celestial Projectionist, I have to say, is just, I love that card so much. It's this little unsuspecting thing that just, it's when it's good, it's really good. And just with the number of decks that, with, I don't love how good it is in Rogue because of Shadow Step. That is not cool. Because they hit those hands where they just like, all right, what's in the box? They shuffle with Gatekeeper and they're like, oh, Giant, Projectionist, and Shadow Step. And once I realize that it's like you Projectionist the Giant and then you Shadow Step the Projectionist and get another free Giant, 24 power, I don't love that. But yeah, I dig it with, Molten Giant, Imprisoned Horror. It's got some real power in these kinds of decks. So that's very cool. And in the
Works
Zerimi Priest
well
too.
in Priest as well, Thirsty Drifters, or even just an extra if you have 4 mana to spare, an extra Dreamboat.
Zilliax.
An extra Zilliax I've definitely used a bunch.
Uh-huh.
That is some burst damage on your Zerimi turn or at any point, and makes your deck a lot harder, your board a lot harder to clear, and it's an extra minion, making the next Zilliax cheaper. So
Yeah, we got these deck lists like just hours ago as we're recording this.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's a good place to like see how many of every type of deck there is. Kind of like looking at the spreadsheet.
The donkey site is kind of gives you a visual idea of it. I mean, it doesn't help you within an archetype, but you can kind of see how many white decks there are, how many red decks there are. Like, there's a lot of Warlock. There's a lot. I mean, almost all DH. There's a lot of Priest, a lot of Warrior, a fair number of Shamans, 2 Rogues, 2 Mages, and 2 Death Knights. So
honestly, I'm surprised at how few people brought Mage. I guess maybe they felt like it was too weak into some of the aggro decks. I'm not sure, but I felt like Mage would have a stronger presence just because it has that kind of shot against anything. But
yeah, I guess Painlock kind of filled in that role as a 4th deck for a lot of those players because nobody who brought Painlock brought Mage, right?
Sure.
It's generally like Shopper DH, Zerimi Priest, some sort of Warlock, and then some sort of Warrior is kind of like the default good decks lineup.
Yeah, there's a lot of Warriors. There's of course, the 1 or 2 people who brought Rogue. I believe just draw Rogue though.
Yeah,
actually, it might just.
Donkey's calling it Cycle Rogue, but yeah, that's everything must go and play House Giants.
Yeah, so. And they got Speaker Stomper for the Nature Shaman matchup, which makes sense
as one does
because it's tradable anyway. So tradable is fine that deck. Yeah. I'm really excited to watch this Masters Tour. It should be a very good time. I love that I always get surprised by these things, right? That like there's actually a ton of Painlock, which has only like been making a little bit of a presence on ladder for me. I don't know if you two have been seeing it very much, but it's a really cool deck.
Yeah, I saw it a little bit, but I was playing control decks and I just like destroyed everything and was like, okay, that was cool. Like I never really saw it like do the thing because I was playing. So I was either playing Highlander Warrior or Rainbow DK, and I just had everything to deal with it, so I didn't really care. I think it was probably Rainbow DK because I was probably poisoning everything.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those decks though that sometimes just gets going like way too quickly, and so even if you are a deck that usually has answers, it's like, well, I can't poison everything until turn 6, and here I am, turn 4, staring at a bunch of giants. What do I do? And in an environment where most people are, I assume, banning Demon Hunter, it gets a much better matchup spread.
Yeah, you can't ban both. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Root for Molstar. I would love to have an America's champion and one who's my teammate, no less. So that's it for Masters Tour, and now we get to do Decksplanations, which I'm sorry, but it's very fun.
Are you? I don't think you are.
We will talk about how to beat it as well.
That is one of the core reasons I suggested this, is because I was like, I feel like some people, it would be easy to face this deck and flounder and not know what on earth to do, and maybe we can help people take a step back and think critically about the matchup and what their outs are.
All right. So, Edel is the one of the three of us who knows the most how to pilot Virus Rogue. I have definitely seen it. When I had an interesting experience with this deck where when I first picked it up, I think because it was fairly early into its development and no one knew what was happening, like everyone was like mouse over the Zilliax, read the text. Oh, right, virus module exists. When I first started playing this, I had a lot of success early on, and then was doing a little bit of the destroy from within as well as without by flailing a little bit, although some of that was misplaying Hearth hands and things like that. I had someone come in to spectate me like just in time to see me completely flail at a Hearth hand. So, but we thought what we would do is first just general, what are the sort of main lists that you either might want to play yourself or are likely to see against you on ladder, and what is the virus rogue, what is their plan, and what does the virus rogue do when that is thwarted or when there's aggression. And then we really wanted to focus on how do different strategies target the virus rogue, especially strategies, for a lot of strategies like Azurimi Priest, the answer is just kill them faster than they kill you. Other decks have more difficulty, so we'll be talking about all of that. But I want to start with, I think we've kind of given the elevator pitch of what is Virus Rogue, but essentially it is, you have a Zilliax. Zilliax has Stealth, Reborn, Elusive, which people tend to forget. If you attack with it, they still can't target it, by the way.
Oh, it's so good. I love, because you can see when your opponent tries to target something, right? And so it's just a delight when you do the swing because you're like, this is good enough damage, and I need to make sure they're not going to hit it with stuff that hits stealth minions, and they go to aim something at it, and it's just like, can't do that. Can't do that.
You can't do that. So you want to find your Zilliax, you want to get it out as soon as possible, and attack, re-stealth it with the spider, attack again. You can kill them like turn 6 this way if you get it out on 4. There's lots of different ways to do. The main list, so Vicious Syndicate put out a list today that I'd say there's agreement on like 27 out of 30 cards in general. Or maybe 25 out of 30. The cores of the deck, we've got Zilliax, obviously, Sap and Deafen. Actually, it looks like Sacco cut Sap. No, he didn't. Okay.
No, he didn't, but he had it in backstabs.
You've got Quick Pick. You've got Eviscerate for a little extra damage or to survive if necessary. You have Dig for Treasure to find your minions. Crucially, you have Pit Stop to tutor, because you only have 3 mechs. You have Frequency Oscillator, which discounts your Zilliax. You have Zilliax, of course, and you have the spider. So you can always find the Zilliax. If you're not me playing it today, you can always find the Zilliax.
Or me playing it today. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fairly consistent. Like, it is as consistent as you would want and expect a tunnel vision game plan like this to be. It's probably not as good at getting the Zilliax as like Demon Hunter is at getting the weapon, because they have 2 weapons and 2 tutors for the weapon. But you get there a pretty good amount of the time if your main goal is just like full mulligan for Pit Stop or the Zilliax.
Yeah, that is what I learned. You do need to really try to get it.
There are arguments in certain situations not to. I don't know, maybe some people would differ on opinion with this, but I feel like in aggressive matchups, I will still keep a frequency oscillator because you're going to need that speed anyway. So you just kind of have to pray that you find the Zilliax, and because you need both the 2-1-on-1 and the discount to really have a shot. And Pit Stop, I haven't checked. I assume it's the number 1 mulligan win rate card in the deck because, not only does it tutor you the Zilliax, but if you happen to draw the Zilliax after keeping it in the mulligan, then you can draw your frequency oscillator to discount it. You can draw a spider to magnetize on it that's buffed. But most of the time, you want to Pit Stop on 2. Sometimes even, like, if you've already got a frequency oscillator and you have prep Pit Stop, you can do those both on turn 1 because you want to make sure that you get that buff, because it basically doubles the speed that Zilliax is going to find you lethal damage, since this form of Zilliax has a relatively low starting power, since it's also poisonous, right? It starts with 2 power. It's a 2/6. If you get it off Pit Stop, it starts as a 4/7. And so that just makes the clock turn faster because it's doubling from 4 instead of doubling from 2. So
yes, and that is indeed
world of
the
difference.
highest mulligan win rate card. And it has a 97% keep rate. I would assume the 3% is someone tossing a second Pit Stop.
Or somebody who's playing the deck for the first time, maybe. It's, I don't know.
That one's pretty obvious. I feel like throwing back a second one. But
yeah, I guess in terms of getting it out sooner, one of the other things that Vicious Syndicate added, which I tried and was not particularly impressed with, is Dart Throw to get a coin in, I guess specifically in the Demon Hunter matchup.
Sure.
Both of the darts will go into the 6/5. I feel like that's pretty ambitious most of the time, but it's defensible at least.
Well, and you could potentially be prepping that Dart Throw, right? So I see the argument, and I definitely saw in a player who was posting their performance with this deck. I think they hit like rank 4. I believe Sun Q, inventor of the deck. I haven't experimented with Dart Throw. Personally, I enjoy Hearth. I understand cutting it because it makes your digs all the more consistent. And if you just say, Warrior's a bad matchup anyway, sometimes you'll get there with the Zilliax, but mostly you're focusing on making some of those aggro matchups better by having, backstab. I just really love playing with Hearth, and I enjoy when I get halfway there against a warrior and then roll that warrior hand, roll that Shutterwalk Shaman hand, whatever it may be. Yeah, that's probably actually the second best one besides warrior in that matchup.
Or just bore them into disconnecting with Libram Paladin.
Yeah, I do enjoy getting a bunch of floppy Hydras with Vicious Scale Hide on them, shuffling those into the deck forever, and they keep doubling in stats. That's fun. Floppy Hydra makes that pool so cool, making zombies. But largely the times that I've gotten there against Warrior with Hearth, it's like I get the kill you next turn hand, right?
Hearth, I think it also has that, extra, it gives you that game plan against a warrior, for example, once your Zilliax has been cleared, even just the psychological effect of I have the Hearth, and you're likely to draw it because you're not running very many minions and you are running dig for treasure. One of the earlier versions of this deck, and I think this was part of my problem for a while, is that I was playing earlier versions that had more minions in it, and that then makes it that much less likely that you'll draw what you need. So that's why we're talking about things like Dart Throw instead of just Greedy Partner, because Greedy Partner,
yeah.
Then that's part of the refinement that's been going on with this deck. Also, from the scrap heap can give you, as was alluded to earlier, I think it can give you all kinds of really helpful terms, as well as it buffs the attack so that then that +1 attack will double on the next turn.
Yeah. Wind Fury's pretty good, I heard. That seems okay. Lifesteal's pretty good against Demon Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good hits. Like, it's totally random, so you sometimes you get really good ones, sometimes you get probably Poisonous is the worst one because it already has Poisonous. But yeah, with Reborn, I definitely recommend like saving that for just in case they do manage to kill it, because if it reborns and they can't clear the second half and then you give it Reborn again, oh man, that's just it's brutal for them to deal with. I think I figured out the difference between the VS because I mean, so many of the cards are similar. It can be hard to know what was cut. VS swapped out Tarslick, which I do kind of get if you're taking out Valera's Gift for Stick Up. I think being able to do like the Tarslick Fan of Knives, which is, you know, one of the ways you deal with stuff like, you know, Hunter or other go-wide things, kind of makes some sense to me. Personally, I like Tarslick. I like being able to clear those bigger boards, but it's just kind of pick your preference of ways of dealing with, you know, early minions and stuff, right? Zap, backstab, etc. Figure out what works for you. Definitely like Stick Up, though. I hadn't been having that in my list and still was doing very well, but Stick Up can give you some nice burst damage. A Heat Wave is incredible. It can give you healing. Like, it's just one of those toolbox cards that
yeah. Stick Up into Gyreworm is pretty good against Demon Hunter.
And it's fairly consistently, most of the time you will, if you need to remove stuff, you will find something defensive.
Yeah, and I don't expect the quick draw pool to get expanded much, right? Since that was a set mechanic. Like, in the mini set, they had a Gyreworm, and that was basically it. So, you know, it's just got a really solid set of things to pull from. Yeah. I mean, we talked a little bit about it, but in case it wasn't obvious, deck's called Virus Rogue because it's all about the virus power Zilliax. You want that down as quickly as possible. It's the whole reason we're running Frequency Oscillator is so that you can get it down on 4 instead of 5 or 3 on the coin, which is disgusting. And
save the coin until you can play the Zilliax.
Yeah.
In this. If you didn't get the Frequency Oscillator, save your coin. This is the thing where you're really planning ahead, especially in the first few turns. I mean, this is always true, but I found this especially true when I was trying to play this deck. You need to know what you're going to be doing on each of these turns so that you don't accidentally cost yourself a turn. Costing yourself a turn to get the Zilliax down can be a really big deal.
Yeah. You know, it's a very tunnel vision game plan. So you do need to know kind of each matchup reasonably well, right? To know what are their niche outs if they are pretty niche, and what can you do about it. I will say, as my hand buff paladin, my out was basically hard mulligan for Finley, and hope I get discovers fast enough, because there's not a whole lot else you can do in time. Amatus is not fast enough. But, you know, just little things you need to know, like, a mage will freeze it forever. So you actually, you can't give them an opportunity to target it, because minions can still target elusive minions. So in that one, you can't ever break stealth unless you can re-stealth with the magnetic minion. There are a few matchups where you can do that, right? Sometimes you're just like, elusive is good enough. This is too good of damage to pass up. You know, and it's still got reborn or whatever. So you just have to go for it. But
yeah. The mage makes it worse too by the fact that they get armor for the attacks. So they undo all the damage that you just did. So you kind of need to kill it. With against mage, it's kind of, if you're going to come at the king, you best not miss, right?
Yeah,
just kind of kill them all in one go. But
you go for the one shot, or you are able to re-stealth with the spider. It can be a little risky just re-stealthing with the spider, because if they do other ways of gaining armor, like with artificer or whatever, and get out of range, and you only have that stealth for one turn, that's where you can run into some trouble. So I tend to, against mage, try and just leave it stealthed until they're going to die in one hit. They don't have a lot of taunts. They don't have a lot of ways of blocking. So as long as you mitigate the meager pressure they're able to apply, you're usually good there. It pretty much comes down to, do they discover double star power? And, that's it. If they don't find double star power, they're usually not going to get there. Or, maybe star power and a heat wave on the same turn to clear the reborn. So, that's definitely one of the good matchups. Something that I really like about this deck is, honestly, the bad matchups, because they're super interesting. So, the aggro decks that are just trying to beat you down, it becomes this puzzle of well, how much can I divert from my core game plan of you still have to get the Zilliax down to do kind of anything. But sometimes you need to take a break because there's a shopper that's going to kill you. Or they've got too much stuff on board. As Zarimi Priest, you need to deal with that. And that's where I like kind of the, removal is not your main thing, but you're using the tools you have, the Tar Slicks, the, extra fan from Valera's Gift or whatever it is. The Hunter matchup is really fun. All about the Fan of Knives and the Hunter matchup. And, sometimes it comes down to, oh, thank God, I got lifesteal on a scrap bot, right? So you're able to win the race because you're just and now I hit you, and I'm at full health, and you're at half health. So, and if they're forced to run everything into the Zilliax to deal with it, again, because elusive, that can sometimes be enough. I've had one or two games, I think against something like a Zarimi Priest, where it was I ended up having to use the Zilliax for its poison, just to clear things. And as long as it doesn't get Amonthuled, right, where it gets poofed, which usually it's going early enough that that's not a factor. You get the Reborns, you'll get to remove something else, you can piece together all these removal things, and then as long as you give yourself a window to Hearth, I got the Galakron Priest. They were valued out at that point. There was no way, right?
There's no way.
They saw that I got Galakron Priest and they were like, nope, I'm done. So it's really, I think, crucial to have that backup of Hearth. But it's just got this shifting gears. It can be cleverer than you think. I've definitely seen some, and maybe they weren't running Hearth and that's why, but I've definitely seen some players concede as soon as the Zilliax gets dealt with, and I don't think that's correct as long as you might have the opportunity to get there with Hearth. It can take you by surprise, but I think we can go over the specific ways of dealing with it.
My favorite part of the discussion, because I love murdering this deck so much.
It is, I will say, people hate it, but I do think you got to remember how good it feels to beat it, right? Yeah. How good it feels to beat something you hate. So just remember those moments.
It does feel good if they haven't become Libram Paladin and it took you 20 minutes of watching the bed flinger you. But
it's not too common. And especially, I think, if people stop running Hearth due to the VS report.
Yeah. Well, it happened twice on that stream that they turned into Libram Paladin. So it was...
That was just targeted at you personally.
That's just hat pushing buttons to annoy me on ladder. That's what that is. But I mean, if you're playing a control deck, you should have ways to do it. You just need to be looking for those and planning for them, right? If you're warrior, you can get Brawl out of Garrosh's Gift, which is good for part of it. And generally, it's okay to deal with both halves, individually, because it does get reset to 2 when it gets reborn, and you should have enough armor as the warrior that you're going to be able to live through that and then find another way to deal with it. But you have Reno, you have Brawl, you have the Excavate Brawler at 7. You also have things like Bladestorm and Aftershocks. I mean, Aftershocks is going to be good for the second half. Bladestorm, the thing with Bladestorm is that you need to be dealing with the not Zilliax minions as they come out to make sure that you have a clean Bladestorm. Because if there's anything that's on the board, that anything else that's on the board is going to basically tank for the Zilliax. So when you see that, if Bladestorm is your plan, you need to be aggressively removing literally everything else, even if it doesn't seem like it's worth it, just to make sure that Zilliax comes down on an empty board and you can Bladestorm it.
Which there's not a whole lot of minions,
Yeah.
so like that's not too hard. Usually they're not gonna play a spider tank beside the Zilliax or anything. It's basically just the frequency oscillator. You really want to be careful of like, do you have a minion of your own? Because what I tend to do as the virus rogue is, obviously I don't leave a needle rock totem up, but if they play like the 2/2 where you draw from armor, I just leave that there, right? I'm not killing that for them because Bladestorm is their easiest out to my Zilliax. Now it does make me a little weaker in terms of if they're going to gift Brawl or something like that, but Brawl, at least I can potentially just win the Brawl. And it's such a tough matchup that I'm kind of willing to accept that because Bladestorm is like the number one thing that people are looking for to deal with this deck. So, just be careful of the minions that you're putting out as the warrior that might get in the way of your own Bladestorm.
Yeah. Or if you do have a minion left over, if they are leaving a minion over and you can't Bladestorm, then you can use that plus the Burrow Buster to trade it off after it attacks. You're going to take the one hit from it. But at least you should be able to do that if like they leave a 2/2 up and it's a 4/8 and they haven't put a mini bot on it or whatever.
Well, but you just leave it stealth then as the rogue.
Well, I mean, they're not gonna get through the armor. If you're armoring up, you're probably armoring up before you will find an answer in that deck before they kill you with it by doing that. I'm
usually, but sometimes if I'm just like, oh, okay, they've played some minions, they've locked themselves out of Bladestorm, I'm just gonna magnetize, right? And a common pattern is to attack for 8 and then magnetize, and so you've got the re-stealth. Right, that's usually the pattern. So I wouldn't think so much about like being able to trade minions into it because that's usually not something you're going to be given the option of. But but having more minions in play can give you better odds for a brawl.
Yeah, you can also do aftershocks the same turn. Yeah, but that means that you're planning ahead with that, and then you're planning ahead and you're playing a spell, even if it's just like the coin or something, to make sure that the aftershocks is costed such that you can aftershocks and Bladestorm in the same turn. But you have a lot of options. If it's going later, then you get into the Badlands Brawler, then you get Reno online. There's other things that you can do there that come online later if they're leaving it stealth. So it's just a matter of like, you've got a lot of removal and a lot of removal that doesn't need to be targeted. Like obviously a shield slam's not going to help you here, but like you have enough like, I don't care about the board specifically clears that you just need to play around whichever one you have. And then that should help out. I think Death Knight is also one that can deal with this. It sometimes takes a little creativity. Headless Horseman's the most straightforward way, but remember that if you give poison to a minion and then put threads on it, when it dies, it will clear the board. So even if you can't trade that into something, I mean, threads is a way to deal with that, but you're going to have to get a fairly big board up. But if you can give it poison first, then it doesn't matter how many minions you have, just the 1 damage will do.
Or if you can discover something like an asphyxiate. I know in this past week's Vicious Syndicate podcast, they were speculating about if we're not seeing Demon Hunters after the patch, do you just run asphyxiate, especially if you're starting to see a lot of virus rogues?
And Wheel Warlock, right? It's very good against Wheel Warlock.
15-15, just asphyxiate it. So,
well, the problem is that it's not 1 15-15 a lot of the time. It's usually 3 15-15.
Sure, but dealing, still half the damage gone. Yeah, so then we get into the decks where there's kind of niche removal things that you've just got to like, you're not favored the way that Warrior is. and you don't have maybe clear stuff like the Rainbow DKs, which is, again, I think that's still rogue favored, but you do have some pretty good answers in Threads Poison or Headless Horseman. Mage, we talked about, if they ever make the mistake of leaving it targetable, you want to Sleet Skater it. And I think the way that the magnetic thing works is it's stealth for one turn, regardless of whether you attack or not. Yeah. So they kind of seriously screwed up if they let you Sleet Skater it, because then you pretty much get to Sleet Skater it every turn forever, and it's more armor each time. So, but largely you're discovering star power, maybe Heat Wave, to deal with it. Wheel Lock. So Wheel Lock often has a tough time, because you're a little too fast. Maybe you can pressure with big stuff, but sometimes you can get clever with, like, they've got the Oscillator in play, and you combine Defile, or you've got like maybe a Geode in play or something. You combine Defile with then coining out a Mortal Eradication, and that's sometimes you can get got, particularly if it doesn't have the buff from the pit stop. So, and once the first half is dealt with, the second half is much easier, because a Mortal Eradication or a Defile is going to have an easier time clearing that, even though you can't target. I suppose there is also the possibility of, like, wheel, make big taunts, and then you can Reno, but usually things don't go that long.
Yeah, if you're the Virus Rogue, you are definitely trying to make sure that things do not go that long, although that's generally what you're doing for all of these. I can see why you like the faster matchups, because the faster matchup is mostly what I've been playing from the other side into Virus Rogue, and you're doing a lot of trying to count, am I dead? Like, can I race them? Right? Both players are sitting there going, can I race them? And that also partly depends on how much do you have to deviate from your plan to deal with something. If you're a Zarimi Priest, you cannot really deal with unless it's somehow turn 7 and they left it unstealthed, and then you can Amonthul it. That's not really a realistic plan. So instead, you have little taunts, and then you're racing them. And you're just trying to think, okay, I'm going to count how much damage they have. They might be able to magnetize some things. Hopefully they don't get Wind Fury. And if they don't get Wind Fury, you have a pretty good shot, because you just focus on your game plan. I'm just going to make a really big board. I might put some little annoying taunts in the way, or a bigger one with Thirsty Drifter, depending. So, they can sap or deafen a taunt, but not 4 1/2 dragons, unless I guess then they have, that's what the Dart Throw, the Slick is for, but
if they run it. Dragon Druid's the same way. Yeah, like Dragon Druid, you can deal with one taunt, but can you deal with the Dragon Golem? Because you sure as hell are not sapping that.
Right, and that's where Tarslick comes in, right?
Yeah.
Where you've got to either Tarslick double fan or double Tarslick fan. That's your way of potentially dealing with a Dragon Golem. But largely, like, you hope you can kill them before they Dragon Golem, because you need a very specific answer to deal with it. Otherwise, it's kind of a nightmare. So, Gaslight Rogue, you're kind of just doing the thing you always do and hope you're faster, right? Like, I think that one's actually kind of straightforward. Like, mulligan for Gaslight Gatekeeper, get a big hand size, get down 8/8, or everything must go. It's going to depend a little bit on your Gatekeeper RNG in terms of what it redraws you. That one I think is straightforward. Curiously enough, as the Demon Hunter, I think it can be a little tough at times. It's probably Demon Hunter favored just because you're an aggressive class. Definitely what I've seen people do that's worked well for them is, like, they go fast, right? They do not save things. They play their 0 mana spell that gives something rush or +1/+1 if it finales. Like, they do that on a 1-drop. They'll do, like, Frequency Oscillator into the 1/2, and then they'll magnetize the next turn along with something else. Like, just whatever you can do to get early damage in, so that, because I'm willing to sap a Window Shopper, right? Like, it
by the time it comes down again, doesn't matter. Yeah.
I mean, it matters depending on what they discover, mostly because of what they discover off the 1 cost that they get. But largely, I'm just like, nope, I need that 6/5 to be gone because I can't take 6. So I think you really are trying to discover Observer of Mysteries because that's very challenging to test with. And if you get Freezing Trap in the right situation, it's just like, I have nothing to test Freezing Trap with, and I'm going to die if I don't kill you, so I just have to go, right? So it really makes things a lot more complicated for the rogue, putting up, just every turn, if you can. And I think it's more important to have 2 random secrets every turn than to have a bunch of random secrets in 1 turn, if you can help it. Unless you know you're going to have lethal on the follow-up, then you can just flood with random secrets. But those are a huge, huge pain to deal with. So in lieu of being able to, just hit the ground running with a bunch of pressure, that's the direction that I think you want to go. Abyssal Bassist also you can go for, but the rogue is built to deal with taunts, right? Like, that's what we expect to be getting out of the way. But Secrets is more complicated.
Yeah. I mean, especially Freezing Trap. Like, Freezing Trap is terrifying.
I definitely had a Demon Hunter beat me with Freezing Trap.
Yeah.
There was nothing I could test it with. So I was going to die if I didn't attack. It was a Freezing Trap. So.
Yeah, worth potentially saving, the 1/1 rush off of from the scrap heap, if you can, right? Just to be able to test for Freezing Trap. Obviously, you have to roll it, but...
And they have to have a minion. Which they probably will, but
they will have a minion.
They will because they have the demon.
If you
mind.
can't wait a turn,
yeah,
they'll have a minion, and they'll have the demon I just played. Yeah.
Imagine waiting a turn though.
Sometimes it's right. Yeah.
I want to kill him now.
Overall, this is a deck for people who want to kill them now. But every once in a while, you have to have patience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That must be why I didn't gel with the deck, because I generally want to kill people later. Or have them do it for me and then save me the effort.
Yeah. Pain Lock is an interesting one because it's this balance of you don't actually need it to grow very much to kill them, but you need to find time to get the Zilliax in play. So,
I mean, turn 5, even turn 4 is kind of forever against Pain Lock.
Depending on the hand,
but also you have to play a minion that's not going to do anything and then not die, and that's difficult.
I specifically don't hit them. A lot of times you might be daggering up and hitting them a little bit. Nope. We do not touch the Pain Lock's face until it's all at once. Yeah, it's a tricky one. But yeah, I just thought that'd be a quick little explanations that maybe people are running into, getting frustrated with, and could use some guidance on. Maybe it'll be a little less frustrating to play against, or maybe you'll give it a try yourself. But without having the perfect deck to cover, I don't know, it just felt of the moment. Yeah, we'll see how things change after the Demon Hunter nerf. I probably, honestly, this deck gets better, but so does the Remy Priest. So
yeah, I mean that would be what I would worry about, is that the Remy Priest gets a lot better.
We'll probably be talking about that, but we'll find out exactly.
Maybe I'll finally learn how to play it if it's not getting murdered by demon hunters. We'll see. Or I'll just play it for 2 games and say I don't understand this and go back to something slow.
Yeah. I don't... I mean, maybe I'm in the wrong places, but I don't see a lot of discourse on this deck just yet, except that Zacho saying how much he hates it. But this does feel like the kind of deck that gets sentiment outliered, right? That they do something because people hate playing against it. But I think it's been getting murdered by aggro enough that we haven't seen a ton of that, what the hell, this deck is terrible. We'll see.
It's also gotten, I think, more refined. The earlier versions were even worse against aggro.
Yeah.
So if it is able to stabilize a little bit more against aggro, then that might make it a little bit more prevalent. But we'll see.
Well, we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at coincede.com, where you can also find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/coincede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coincede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coincede.com. And write into our email at coincede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at coincede, as well as like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/coincede. If you'd like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.coincede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number Theory, Crash, Beef Squatch, David P., Walu, Jeremy T., Bottle Caps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Regan, Forgiven One, Grizzly Bear, and Tyler Knife. Coin concedes.
Well, I will coin concede to Cora because she, so she. Oh, I guess you already had that on yours too.
I mean,
Edel,
you could. We can both say it.
Yeah. I'm glad that she's alive because the pictures that she showed on her Twitter yesterday were terrifying. Apparently, she was making a left turn at an intersection and the car just went straight through and flipped her car. And amazingly, that neither she nor her brother were hurt. So thank goodness for that. But I mean, good Lord, I can't even imagine going through that. So I'm just glad that she's okay. And I also apparently had to spend some time at the ER just to make sure that she was, there was no other damage. But thank goodness that she's okay. And, hopefully the person who was driving the other car does not get to drive a car for quite a while after this. So
yeah, apparently it was turning on a green light, right? So it's hit one just
left turn on left arrow,
right,
left green arrow.
Someone just barreling right through a red light.
I similarly would like to go and concede to Cora and Sage. It sounds like a terrifying experience. And sometimes car accidents, it seems fine. And then later you're like, my back still hurts. What's up with that? So hopefully, they did thorough checking out at the, various emergency places. But on a happier note, I would like to concede to my teammate, Molstar, because it's so cool to have a teammate in the Masters Tour. It's been, I think this might be the first time for us, for Swigo Gaming. I'm not positive on that. But no, that's not true. It's the first time for us since it's been this grindy ladder situation. We used to have people, with some frequency when it was the Open Cup situation. We had some people get into those. But yeah, in sort of this new generation of the team, it's been a while. And I feel tentatively optimistic with that shaman, with the hard target Demon Hunter lineup and everyone having Demon Hunter. I hope it plays out as well as it theoretically should. Yeah. I guess how about you?
Well, I will third. Really glad that Cora and Sage are okay, and yeah, absolutely, it's important to monitor that, make sure that they still feel okay. I also wanted to coin concede to and the contestants in his tournament, just because I think it's really cool that we have these community events, and also best of luck to the contestants in the Masters Tour, and coin concede to them for the incredible grind to get there. And lastly, I have a friend who is into and entering and teaching credential programs. She will also be a teacher, and coin concede to her. She's really excited to start that. High school biology is her interest, and I think absolutely a need. And she has a lot of experience in customer service, so I think a bunch of ninth graders are not too scary. Although they can still be hard to wrangle, I'm sure, as I know from experience, having taught a bunch of ninth graders.
They're less scary than seventh and eighth graders, but still kind of scary. I have to live with 2 ninth graders right now, so I can tell you they're occasionally scary. Especially after being at theater practice until 10:30 at night every night for a week. So
that'll do it.
They're very scary. But that's going to do it for us for this week. So until next time, keep calm and find a buddy to pass your minions to. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
All life must end. I yield for now.
I concede. Well fought. I concede.
You win this one.
The victory is yours.
You have bested me.
I give up.
You win this one, friend. You win this time. I choose death.